All right, welcome to the latest edition of Hogtown Hangs, a podcast from the Hogtown Brass Quintet. I'm your host, Jay Austin, and I'm joined today, as always, by my co-host, Tristan Ty. Today we're talking with Erin Probst, Music Department Head at Sir John A. Macdonald Secondary School in Waterloo. She spends her days happily in band land, teaching a full range of music courses and leading many extracurricular ensembles, ranging from concert band to jazz bands and chamber groups and even the choir. Before her position at SJAM, Mrs. Probst taught music in many of the high schools in the Waterloo Board, where she's been teaching since 2011. Mrs. Probst is also an active musician herself and has been a member of the Canadian Armed Forces Reserves as a musician since 2009. She's appeared with the band of the Ceremonial Guard for 2 summers and has taught music at the CAF School of Music at Base Borden for a summer as well. When she's not working on summer contracts, she is the Saxophone Section Leader, that's very hard to say, of the Royal Hamilton Light Infantry Band, and has also been a member of Waterloo-area choirs, Kokoro, and the Age of Majority Singers. Thanks for being here, Erin.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Hey.
So I believe we're going to jump around a little bit here, but you know our dear friend Tristan quite well from your time in basic training. Tristan, do you want to lead off with that?
Well, yeah, so 11 years ago, we were just talking about this before we went live. 11 years ago this month, we were loading into Carleton University campus after our 5 weeks of intense basic training to start our first summer as cadets in the Ceremonial Guard band.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe it's been 11 years.
So I think Erin wins prettiest backdrop on these interviews.
Thank you.
So far. Beautiful backyard. So Erin, you being a band department head or a music department head at a high school, I guess the first and most obvious question is, how is this distance education plan or moving target, how's it working or not working really for kids and for teachers?
Yeah, so that's a pretty loaded question. And for me, I guess maybe I'll break it down a little bit by like what worked really well. And I think the things that translated really well to online learning were, things that were like the theory, the history, music analysis, things that it was easy to do on, working documents with the kids, and we could collaborate on things. There were so many great programs and websites that sort of offered free usage for the time that schools were shut down. So things like Breezing Through Theory, which is a great site that I didn't even know about prior to quarantine. They had all of their information free. And so that was a great way that kids could practice the theory and learn some skills that augmented what I was teaching them. Musictheory.net we've used for years, and that worked really well. And then I discovered a lot of new things like Flipgrid. I don't know if you've heard of that one.
No.
It's a cool site where kids can just record a quick 1 or 2 minute little response to a topic. So when we were doing history this year and some of our analysis, the kids would just record their little blurb about what they learned or what they really liked from an assignment or something, and then they could respond to each other using video, and they could edit it, and it looked really snazzy, and it was just kind of a fun way to sort of interact together. Like It felt a bit more like community. So yeah.
Now, as far as performing goes, I mean, I know we've had our challenges like in trying to put these the videos together that we have, the distance videos, and sort of embracing technology in a way that I don't think many musicians, some did, right, but not everybody.
It's a different skill set.
Yeah. Is there anything that you've learned, through 3.5 months of trying to get kids to practice and prove that they're practicing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you noticed performance wasn't in that list. So I think performance is kind of a situation that worked in some cases really well and in some cases not so well. In many ways, we did a lot of video recording and that sort of thing already in band class. For years, I've had, kids, maybe their scale tests, I would have them record them or play live, like it would be their option. I've always been of the mindset that if a kid wants to do it recorded, then it should be really good because they can hear it, they can make sure it's what they want. And if that means they practice a little bit more, I'm okay with that. So we've always done that. We've done quite a few like studies or technique sorts of things that way in the past as well. Our board in Waterloo, we use Google Classroom pretty frequently.
Yep.
And so it's really seamless. The kids can just upload their videos to an assignment, and then I can watch them and give them feedback. It's really easy that way. One thing that was really great during this quarantine was that Smart Music, which is a site that has been around for, I think, 5 or 6 years, maybe longer. They made all of their content free again as well during this quarantine period. So there was, they basically have everything. So there's all of the method books, all the band charts, all kinds of music was just free and available online that the kids could go on. They can pick what they want to work on. They could practice. It would send me recordings. And so I could assign things that way as well. So for those kids who had instruments, it was pretty easy to keep them playing and keep them engaged. But then there's all of the issues that come up, you know, just with the way band is, you know, instruments, they break. They don't always work exactly the way that they should. And
Right.
when you're not in class and you can't help them with that, it created a whole bunch of new issues and new challenges that we hadn't really faced in the past. So
Right.
had a lot of kids like, what do I do? My valve is sticking. Well, you don't have any oil, so I don't know. Go to Long and McQuaid, you know. So
Yeah.
a lot of things like that. Kids who, you know, oh, my reed broke. Well, I can't access the school and I can't get you another one. So
Yeah.
again, you're gonna have to go purchase it yourself this time.
Right.
And so just
And
trying to figure
did
that
you
out.
find that students were
Tough.
willing to do that, like buy their own valve oil, or like was there a resistance to that? Because I know, like I have a student here in Hamilton who he ran into a valve issue, and he also ran into, you know, a need for slide grease and valve oil, and
Yeah.
I had to say to him, like, the best thing you can do is order it and wait for it to show up, and in the meantime work on, you know, whatever valve is stuck down, work on the slurs between those notes.
Yep.
But I mean, were kids generally receptive, or was there pushback from parents or kids or anything?
I would say that of those who actually told me about their issues, I had probably most of them who were willing to go and find a way to fix it. But I would imagine there were quite a few that I'd never heard about. So I'll be curious to see what shape the instruments are in. Yeah. And then on top of that, not all my kids had instruments. So that was the other big challenge with performance. Because of the way this all happened over March break and then sort of that 2-week extension, which turned into now, we weren't allowed it back into the building. So if they hadn't taken an instrument home over March break, they were just out of luck. Yeah. So I would say for my students, I had probably about, I think it was around 45% of kids who actually had their instruments. So it was a pretty low number to begin with. And then, you know, as things progressed, that changed what my enrollment or my participation was after that. So,
Right.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, have you had to, because of that specific issue, have you had to pivot a lot in the way that you're instructing or the way that you're evaluating students if they're not able to do scales?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I had actually this semester 3 sections of grade 9 beginner band. So it was all kids who not only had only been playing for a few weeks, but you know, they didn't necessarily have instruments. So yeah, the course usually is a 70% of the mark is performance. So I was trying to do, you know, a lot of different unique things to be able to give them opportunities to do some kind of performing. We did, like if kids had a guitar or a ukulele or a piano at home, often they would use those instead. So I had a lot of that. We did some assignments that were very non-traditional, just a way to show me that they understood rhythm or dynamics, you know, not in the traditional band kind of sense. So yeah, we made it work. It wasn't ideal.
Now, have you been told anything else? I know today, actually, at 1 p.m. today, Premier is going to make an announcement about what we think is going to happen in the fall, but have you been told about how it might operate or could go forward?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say what I know is that my principal and I have talked about, hygiene issues, issues around disinfecting. At our school, typically what we've done is kids will share mouthpieces, like there's one mouthpiece per case. And so they disinfect in between every use, which I know a lot of schools do. But we've decided to go ahead and order enough so that every student in a course next year will have their own mouthpiece. And they'll be assigned one, and they keep that at least. So that way they're, it should only be being used by that one person. So hopefully that will help. So that will be one change for sure. I would expect we're going to have a lot more coming down the pipes in terms of disinfecting instruments as a whole, and cleaning those. There have been lots of great presentations recently and some good research done on, what we can be doing to make it safer for students that way. Yeah, and I mean, I think there's a lot of positive news coming out of that too. At first, I think there was a lot of concern that, you're playing an instrument, you're breathing out a lot of air. What's that going to look like, and how are you spreading your germs all over the room? But there's a growing body of evidence that's really suggesting that instruments aren't nearly as bad as we thought. Because the instrument creates resistance to produce tone, it's actually trapping a lot of that air inside the instrument itself. So I'm sure you guys have seen some of the studies that are being done.
Yeah, I think I saw like a sort of a hypothetical video situation where the particles like may have seeped out of the instrument, but kind of just fell right directly in front of the musician.
Yeah. So the Vienna Philharmonic is one of the big groups that's starting to do that. And sort of what they're already coming up with is that if you keep a distance of about 2.6 feet, you should be fine. Yeah. So that's much, much better than we expected. So it's encouraging news. Certainly there'll be changes.
I think that Vienna Philharmonic study, I think it's been submitted for peer review as well. So hopefully there's some more, hopefully positive news coming out of stuff like that. I mean, not just in terms of school, but in terms of hope to perform in the, in the very near future.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, we want to cut out just for one quick second here. Tristan's got an ad he's going to read, and then we're going to come back with a new segment.
We got to plug our stuff. So, have you always wanted to have a Hogtown Brass t-shirt, but were never a member of the band? Well, we've got you covered, literally. We've recently launched the Hogtown Brass web store through teespring.com to help us keep the proverbial lights on and to help us continue producing great content for our fans. Currently available, we have t-shirts, hoodies, and tank tops, all in a variety of sizes and colors. So teespring.com, look up Hogtown Brass, get your shirt. Perfect. There you go.
So we're always taking a look at different ideas and different ways to share ideas. And with having Erin on today, we thought it'd be a great idea to share some of the things that we've been watching and consuming and places that we're continuing to be inspired to be educators or performers or just consumers of awesome music content. So what I wanted to do is, this is all social media stuff. This is stuff that's freely available to anybody in the world with an account. My share today is a fairly new follow for me. It's at bandology_music, which is a Canadian nonprofit organization that's dedicated to providing more music for kids via education, collaboration, and community. They have a podcast, they have live streams, tons of great info. That's an Instagram account, but they are also on Facebook, and they have a great website. So can't recommend that enough. They're becoming really, really great colleagues for the Hogtown Brass.
Yeah, they're fantastic people. Yeah. Had the pleasure of meeting them down at Midwest a couple of years ago.
Very good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Tristan, you're up next.
Yeah, so mine's a little more specific and trumpet nerdy, as we trumpet folk are wont to do. I recently started following Chris Smith, who's the principal trumpet in San Diego. About 6 weeks ago, I started following him, and it was kind of, he's been posting a lot of great videos of him playing like trumpet etudes or even transcriptions of string works, all sorts of stuff. And what got me onto his page was I was kind of in a little bit, I don't know how everyone else has felt about practicing during this, but I've been kind of like this with my attitude. And he just posted a video one day of him playing through and talking through his like 45-minute daily warm-up. And I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna have a coffee, gonna watch this. And that video got me like just right back on the horse. I was like, this is great. This guy has like really good philosophy of teaching and practicing. So yeah, at his Instagram handle is @TrombaChris, and he's also on Facebook, Chris Smith from the San Diego Symphony. So,
Cool.
yeah. Erin, do you have any that you've been checking out recently?
Yeah, one of the ones I started following, again, near sort of the beginning of this quarantine was the CSO musicians. So for the Chicago Symphony. And they've been posting some fabulous like little workshops, kind of mini master classes and little lessons for students, which are really great. Some awesome interviews with their musicians, and some really good content that you just wouldn't normally see. So yeah, I've really liked them.
And you'd mentioned that the Canadian Forces bands are putting out some pretty great stuff too.
So good. It tends to be more on Facebook, not on the Instagram, but if you're on Facebook still, check them out. They've got lots of great stuff. All the different Canadian Forces bands have their own Facebook accounts, and they've been posting some really, really good things lately, from these sort of quarantined videos. Yeah, and I would expect many good things, especially as we head towards Canada Day.
Right.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So Erin, that concludes our first ever shot at having a segment like that, which is kind of cool. But back to some basic Q&As here.
Okay.
Do you have any tips, whether for your students or for students in general, for staying in shape over the summer?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, there's, the one we all love and hate is long tones. I always recommend that one to my kids, much to their chagrin, but it really, really does help. But I think the biggest thing is really just find stuff that you're interested in and dig into it. There's so much great music that's free online now. Even back to when I was in high school, it's a totally different world. You can find all kinds of great tutorials on YouTube, or even just like MuseScore and all these other websites that have, tons of free content. So whether it's pop tunes or musical stuff, or, whatever you love listening to, find some music that you can play on your instrument and just keep playing, right? I think that's so important. And it doesn't have to be like the etudes and the studies and the scales all the time, just something to keep you engaged and interested in your instrument.
I've always said to my students that the best way to stay in shape is to get the horn on your face, or metal on lips every day, right? And
Yeah.
so whether that's for 5 minutes or 15 minutes or 2 hours, I mean, a consistent, if you're hitting your horn 6 to 7 days a week, when you go back to whatever life is normally in the fall, it's going to seem a lot less jarring. And you hit the nail on the head for what I was going to say. It doesn't matter what you're playing. Like have a good time, start making music, investigate projects that are styles of music that you wouldn't even consider, if you love listening to a certain style of music, but you don't think you can do it on your instrument, give it a swing. Let's see what happens. This is what the Hogtown Brass is doing at the moment. We're trying to take some big swings and see what we can figure out how to do. So, I mean,
that's cool.
Yeah.
I was going to say one of the things that I've always used to keep me in shape when when I've been out of university, or when I was out of high school when I was younger, like we said, long tones, etudes, all that stuff is really, really important. But if you get too bogged down with that, I kind of lost the joy sometimes. So one of the things I love to do before I even start like practicing is I'll just put on whatever I'm listening to that week, get my mouthpiece out and just buzz along, because I can sing it. And if I can sing it, I'll figure out how to buzz it. And it helps your musical inspiration before you start the actual like technical practice.
That's awesome. Oh, speaking of sort of branching out and trying new things, I've got a few students who've started a YouTube channel, and they're doing like these sort of distance quarantine videos. And every week they're just creating some new content. And so, I mean, like for students who are looking for ways to stay in shape this summer, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to do that kind of thing, but there are so many, ways, like apps that you can put these sorts of things together. There's so many ways you can play together apart. So maybe look into some ways to do that too, just for that inspiration.
Very cool. All right.
Oh, yeah.
Now let's move to the forces.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's go back to the forces. So Erin and I, again, we're in the Ceremonial Guard in Ottawa several years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of got out of that life and out cleared a few years ago. But Erin is still going strong in the
Still in
reserve
it.
band, Royal Hamilton Light Infantry. Want to tell us a bit about your experience there and what your role is?
Sure, yeah. So I know in the bio that you had read, it had mentioned that I was the section leader. I actually did recently step down from that role. So I was the saxophone leader for quite a while. And when I was doing that, that sort of just entailed, checking in with people about gigs, making sure we had the personnel, making sure that, if people needed a hand working on their parts or, practice tips, whatever, I was kind of there for that. We started doing like band camp days, I would say 3-4 years ago, maybe now, where we'd go in on a Saturday and just spend the day working on music and drill and all that kind of stuff. And that was really cool. So I was running some sectionals and doing some fun stuff there. But for me, I was just starting to find that it was just one more responsibility I didn't really have time for anymore in my life. So I did step down from that role. But yeah, I love playing with the band. It's a great group of people. It's a big band for a reserve band, which is really great. So we usually have about 45 to 55 people on a given night, which is good. And for me as a music teacher, I found it's really important that I stay connected to the reason I got into this in the first place. Like I totally fell in love with band music when I was in high school, and I loved playing and I loved that aspect. And when I graduated from Western, I remember thinking like at the last wind ensemble concert, just like as I was crying, that, this is the last time I'm going to like really play band music. And I just decided like, I can't let that be the end for me for that. So yeah, I think it's important if I want to inspire kids to love band, that I'm still in it and that I still love band too. So
the Rileys is actually where Erin and I met for the first time.
That's right.
And, we got through our first half of rehearsal and then they said, okay, you're going to go down and you're going to march. And I said, and play?
Huh?
So that was, we'll call that a culture shock.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah. So it recently, and by recently about 4 days ago, it came to my attention that Ms. Probst had seen approximately 0 of the great films of the Rocky genre. So I assigned some homework. I believe I called her assignment Room for Improvement. And I hoped that in the 4 days she would study up on the fine film work of the 1970s. So what I've done is I've prepared a couple of trivia questions to see if my assignment was taken seriously, and if any of her students are watching, please feel free to roast as appropriate.
Definitely allowed.
Okay, so let me get this up on the screen here. Erin, did you watch any Rocky films?
I have not yet. No.
See, I also disappointed Jay recently because he just found out that I've only seen the first one once, and I think I fell asleep during it. But the one thing I took from it was the theme, which is a great theme to learn on brass, which coincidentally, going off topic for a quick second. A few years ago, I've been a bartender off and on for years, and a few years ago I did a Guinness pouring competition when I worked for Finn McCool's, and part of it was we had to do some sort of shtick, some sort of like acting or sing art, whatever it was, reciting a poem. And I decided to surprise the entire board of Cara restaurants by pouring my pint of Guinness, and as it settled, I brought my trumpet up and I started ripping the Rocky theme. It's a good time. Then I danced out of there like Rocky. Yeah. Nerd alert. Anyhow.
All right, here we go. Question number 1. In the original Rocky, he squares off against the heavyweight champion. What was the champion's name?
E.
Are you certain it's not Erin Probst?
I mean, he's a scrappy dude, but
pretty certain it was not Erin Probst.
All right, that's you're 1 for 1 on our spoon feeding here. Question 2. During the training montage, Rocky runs up the stairs of what iconic Philadelphia building? The Philadelphia Museum of Art, Citizens Bank Park, or the Edward Johnson Building?
I'm a little sad how much you're spoon feeding me here. A.
That's right. That's right. I've run those stairs. I went to Philadelphia a few years ago, and that was the one thing I insisted on.
Philly.
Okay. And here, sorry?
Did you yell the theme song? Did you yell the theme as you ran up the stairs?
Well, anyone that knows me knows I'm not a small human. So I was just trying not to die while I was running up those stairs.
Noted.
There wasn't a whole lot of talking. There was definitely no singing. There might have been some colorful language.
And you did it. Well done.
Well, yes, sure.
Right.
All right, last one. We got 3.
Oh.
Sylvester Stallone was nominated for 2 Oscars for his role in Rocky. One was Best Actor. What was the other one? Best Original Song, Best Sound Design, Best Original Screenplay.
I'm going to have to go with screenplay.
That is also, you went 3 for 3. So,
Woo! Not too shabby.
I just want to sing the song now.
Right?
so you have Tristan to thank. I wasn't gonna provide you with any kind of multiple guests. And
Thank you, Tristan.
So to repeat what Tristan mentioned earlier, at 1:00 today, for anyone who's listening in Ontario, and especially those with kids, there's a big announcement coming from the province about school in the fall, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a little, I think everything that we talked about even earlier with, getting back to school and getting back to performing and whatnot, I think the disclaimer I'll throw out there is that all of this right now is the best information that we know. Mm-hmm. And, we want to advocate for everyone to be safe and take care of themselves and their families. So obviously we want to, tell everyone to do all of the research, and hopefully when the peer reviewed stuff comes out, we can really get a better sense of what to expect in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Erin, is there anything at all that you'd like to promote or throw out there for the world? Any music you've been listening to or people you've been following?
Oh man. I guess like the biggest thing is, if for anyone watching who is, in bandland or even choir or, missing music, I know how you're feeling, and I really hope that, as Jay was saying, we can stay safe, but I hope that we are able to actually make music together, because, the biggest thing, like Jay, earlier you asked me what's working and what's not working, and I'd say the biggest thing that's not working is we've lost our community. We've lost that sense of togetherness, and it's weird and it sucks. So I'm really hoping we can, get back to something like that soon.
Yeah. Yeah, we feel the same way. I mean, it's one thing for Tristan and I and the other 3 to get together on a phone call or a Zoom call and talk about planning. But man, would it be a lot of fun just to go and play, even if it's just a rehearsal, like just to get together and create it again. So
yeah. We did a little video for our kids as a music department, and it took hours and hours to put that thing together. And we said afterwards, like, how much easier would it have been if we could have just sat in the same room and recorded it once, Yeah. So yeah, it'll be nice.
For sure. Great. Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's everything. There were no questions in the chat, so I think we're safe to say thank you for your time, and enjoy the rest of your sunny day. And I guess there's
thank you.
1 week of school left, right?
This is the home stretch. Report cards are due on Monday for me. So.
All right, better get at it.
Yeah.
Great. Tristan, you want to take us home?
All right. Well, thank you again, Erin Probst, for joining us. It's wonderful to chat with you again. And thanks to everyone for joining us for another episode of Hogtown Hangs with Jay and Tristan. If you've enjoyed the show and you'd like to know more, please check out Hogtown Brass. And eventually, all of these will be available as edited podcasts to be available on iTunes and Spotify or wherever else you find your podcasts. So if you'd like to re-listen, or if you missed today's and you're hearing this from some weird future portal, please go we will be announcing shortly that we are publishing all of these via podcasts. So please check those out when they're available. And that's about it. Cheers. Thank you so much, Erin.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right. See you guys.